The Galactic Council had convened a dozen times before, but never under such dire circumstances. Noticeably absent were the usual petty disputes about trade routes and mineral rights. Instead, representatives from hundreds of worlds gathered in the great, domed auditorium to address a single cause, an enemy so fearsome that all else paled in comparison. Even the sturdiest of voices shook when the new threat was named. Beyond the translucent walls of the council chamber, starships streaked past in silent urgency. Each vessel carried vital personnel, precious supplies, or both, pressed into service by a galaxy at war. Yet, for all their advanced technologies and exotic powers, the Assembly's members were still grasping for a unifying blueprint of resistance. Directly beneath the Council's apex of swirling lights and mosaic floors stood the delegate of Earth, a relatively fresh-faced diplomat by the name of Ambassador Sonia Reyes. Typically overshadowed by the older, more advanced civilizations, humanity's presence in the Council had historically been a formality more than a necessity. But times had changed. The newly identified foe, an insidious species called the Thrazari, had swept across distant star systems in a wave of annihilation. They left behind only scorched worlds and half-devoured remains. Their terrifying ability to siphon solar energy and devour resources at unimaginable speed had rendered entire planets lifeless husks in mere days. No single species could fend off the threat alone. Reyes, an unassuming figure in understated diplomatic attire, surveyed the circle of delegates, whose expressions teetered between fear and outrage. The Garloks of Sector 11, known for their formidable biological engineering, glowered with barely contained fury. The luminous insectoid Xerans clicked and whirred in anxious communication with their hive-mind representatives. Even the stoic, long-lived Orathians, proud defenders of science, displayed a hint of visible distress. It was now or never. Humanity's role had abruptly shifted from being a junior partner to the potential linchpin of a desperate alliance. "We will stand united," Reyes declared, modulating her voice carefully to reach every corner of the enormous chamber. "We bring our passion for survival, our ingenuity in crisis, and the boldness to fight for a future free from terror." A soft chorus of murmurs rippled around the amphitheater. The humans' historical reputation for fearless exploration and adaptability preceded them. The question in every other species' mind was whether those qualities would be enough. Few present realized just how resourceful the humans truly were. Rez had the advantage of Earth's swift industrial mobilization, an unmatched ability to retool massive production lines in weeks, and perhaps most importantly, a reputation for forging alliances even under duress. From ancient times, humanity had itself been a tapestry of diverse nations and ideologies that had learned to coexist, or at least survive, under common governance. Now, at this cosmic scale, they would attempt the same miracle across multiple star systems after days of heated debates and clandestine side meetings. The Council delivered its mandate: to combine technologies for one unified war plan. Each species would share their unique resources and expertise. The Garloks offered advanced genetic modifications for constructing living ships, organisms that could self-repair and adapt mid-battle. The Xerans, in their crystalline brilliance, contributed warp gate expansions, enabling fleets to jump across enormous distances in seconds. Humanity, for its part, provided a newly refined quantum battery technology that could supplement starship firepower, ensuring that each Alliance vessel had a sustainable energy source, no matter how intense the firefights became. As designs for the Allied Armada took shape, word spread across hundreds of Federation worlds. A new coalition had formed, one that placed humans in a lead strategic position. Skepticism abounded. After all, the Garloks had lost entire fleets to Thrazari ambushes, and the Erythians' once vaunted star fortress had been obliterated by a single wave of the enemy's solar harvesting weapons. Why would this alliance be any different? The desire for survival, however, is a potent unifier. In capital cities and floating habitats, Children of every species repeated stories of heroic human pioneer ships that had once ventured into uncertain frontiers, bridging civilizations that had never met before. Hope blossomed, fragile but resilient. Production began at breakneck pace. On the surface of Mars, human engineers and Tiran-high biologists worked side by side, converting dormant factories into fusion forges. Above them, in orbit, Garlock breeding vats teemed with living hull segments grown under carefully calibrated starlight. Orthian quantum mathematicians, integrated into Earth's scientific community, refined the galaxy-spanning warp architecture so that the new fleet could converge at a chosen battle site in mere seconds. Communications relays and supply lines were laid out across parsecs, weaving a massive logistic tapestry never before attempted on such scale. In a hidden corner of the galaxy, the Thrizari were far from idle. Unknown to the Allies, an entire broodmother was orchestrating its next strike. The Thrizari's hungry tentacles extended deep into unsuspecting star systems, feeding on unsuspecting worlds that had not yet joined the Alliance. Their presence was detected when the Alliance's most advanced scout ship, a Tiran stealth vessel, fitted with human sensor arrays, suddenly went silent near the dwarf star Oxyl 17. By the time reinforcements arrived, they found only drifting wreckage and a dim star whose radiance had been partially drained. The tragedy of Oxyl 17 hardened the resolve of the Allies. Following that incident, Reyes and her counterparts declared a new phase-rapid deployment. War was inevitable, and the Allies aimed to strike on their own terms. Though uncertain where the Thrizari would next concentrate their forces, intelligence gleaned from scattered survivors suggested the enemy's next target might be Helion's Belt, a cluster of gas giants orbiting a rare white dwarf. The star system's resource-rich environment was an obvious lure. When the combined fleet finally assembled near the Helion launch point, an awe-inspiring sight unfolded. Tens of thousands of ships hovered in neat formation. Garlock biocarriers bristled with sleek, translucent membranes that glimmered under starlight. Tessiran gate cruisers loomed, dotted with organic crystal nodes for warp manipulations. Human destroyers lined the perimeter, loaded with quantum battery arcs that pulsed with faint blue energy. Each vessel in the Allied Armada was the product of an unprecedented pooling of knowledge. This would not be a typical engagement, but a spectacle of unity, fighting to preserve everything each species held dear. High above Helion's Belt, the Allies waited. In the darkness beyond, Thrizari's swarms boiled out of infrared shadows, an endless ripple of blackness stretching toward the horizon of space. The broodmother's assets were legion, swarms of living infiltration pods, towering capital ships that fed on starlight, an unstoppable wave after wave of lightly armored assault craft. The Allies' commanding officers took in these sensor readings from their collective vantage points. Another hush fell across the comm channels, a single breath of fear before the unstoppable momentum of war. Then, the Allies unleashed their might. Commander Zhao of Earth's Third Fleet led the initial volley. Quantum-laced missiles, shield disruptors, and rail cannons sang across the rogue vacuum. Ziran gate cruisers instantaneously warped behind the first wave of Thrizari assault pods, cutting off retreat. Garlock carriers released living fighters designed to adapt to energy-based attacks, each fighter growing ablative plating whenever it detected a particular wavelength of Thrizari weapon fire. The unstoppable wave of blackness from the Thrizari collided with the vibrant, shape-shifting tapestry of the Allied forces, painting the starry arena with bursts of fire and arcs of living, shimmering color. At first, the Thrizari pressed relentlessly forward, inflicting grievous damage on the Allies' vanguard. Human frigates burned. Siren crystalline arrays shattered, and entire Garlock squads were consumed as their living ships were devoured by the enemy. It seemed as though the Allies might break under the sheer, unrelenting assault, yet in the face of incalculable losses, the newly forged unity offered resilience. A battered Earth destroyer found sanctuary alongside a Garlock carrier, receiving regenerative repairs from the biotech hull. Serene Gate cruisers repositioned just in time to rescue pinned-down Orithian corvettes. Like a well-rehearsed symphony, each species played its part, offsetting each other's vulnerabilities. Ambassador Reyes floated aboard the Allied flagship, the Aurora's Spear, coordinating not just the mechanical aspects of the battle, but also the intangible morale. Live transmissions from ground forces, starbases, and warship bridges revealed the intensity and chaos. Bulletins flooded her view with status reports of lost vessels and faint glimmers of emerging hope. Each piece of data, every request for reinforcements, demanded an immediate decision. Through sweat and exhaustion, she maintained an unwavering presence, fueling the Allies with her calm determination and near-limitless capacity for last-minute problem-solving, a hallmark of humanity's best diplomats. Amid the swirling chaos, the Brood Mother's presence became apparent. Manifesting as a colossal, bio-organic dreadnought, it pulsated with a dark red glow that signaled the absorption of solar energy. Swarms parted before it, reluctant to block its path. Systematic scanning revealed that this broodmother also carried a doomsday-like device that harnessed star siphoning to create destructive singularities. A cold dread settled among the Allied commanding officers. One direct discharge from that abomination could annihilate half the fleet in an instant. Rather than risking a full frontal assault, Reyes greenlit a plan developed by a special think tank of Xeran engineers and Orithian scientists, with crucial input from Earth's visionary tacticians. The Allies would entangle the broodmother using a specialized warp field that disrupted its massive energy intake. Then, a strike force of stealth-capable corvettes would latch quantum explosive charges onto the dreadnought's hull. Controlled detonations would create unstable rifts that the broodmother's main body could not repair in time to convert more energy. The plan was outrageously dangerous. All it required was near-perfect timing. The Allies moved into position. Xeran capital ships enlarged their warp fields, weaving a net of gravitational distortions around the broodmother. Garlock carriers unleashed bioorganic filaments that latched onto the dreadnought's hide, siphoning away crucial shielding layers. As the broodmother realized the trap, it emitted a terrifying psychic bellow that cracked the hulls of weaker vessels. Many smaller ships, including some human frigates, tore apart under the stress. Yet the net held. Then came the strike teams. Small corvettes entrusted with quantum charges meticulously designed by Earth's top labs. One by one, these corvettes slipped through the chaos, thrusters at maximum burn while weaving past scything beams of exotic Thresari energies. They evaded tentacles, skated across the broodmother's surface, and placed the charges with mesmerizing efficiency. Even as scattered corvettes exploded in brilliant flares of flame, the mission pressed on. Dozens of charges latched onto the broodmother's core plating. In a harmonic wave, they detonated, generating overlapping rifts of energy that battered the dreadnought from within. An ear-splitting howl reverberated through every communication channel. The broodmother's immense frame buckled, exuding a dark aura that rippled across space. The monstrous vessel vainly tried to absorb more light from Helion Star to repair itself, but the Allies had erected specialized reflectors around the star's perimeter, redirecting the star's rays. Starlight was withheld from the Thresari, denying them precious sustenance. Crippled and hemorrhaging energy, the broodmother reeled in a slow terminal orbit across the Helion perimeter. Sensing their leader's vulnerability, the Thresari swarm began to falter. No longer directed by the broodmother's strong hive mind presence, they lost coordination, turning themselves into easy targets for the circling Allied fleet. Renewed hope surged among the battered Allies, and every crestfallen face turned fierce with determination. Over the next hours, the Allies pressed the advantage, unleashing a coordinated barrage that systematically dismantled what remained of the swarm. Within the flagship, Ambassador Reyes held her breath as the final blow was delivered. A volley of quantum-laced torpedoes from Earth's newly formed Fifth Fleet. They tore into the broodmother's central mass, triggering a cataclysmic implosion. In a muted flash against the backdrop of distant stars, the broodmother disintegrated. The threat that had menaced countless worlds was finally destroyed. On every channel, from the Garlock's throaty victory cries to the crackling Terran songs, voices erupted in exultant shock and raw relief. In the aftermath, the Allies were not without scars. The burned wreckage of Allied vessels drifted among the ring fragments of Helion's belt. Tens of thousands of brave souls had been lost in the cosmic confrontation. Engineers immediately began rescue operations, salvaging pods and searching for survivors. Medical ships treated wounded soldiers from every corner of the Alliance. Funerary ceremonies had to be planned for the fallen, each species mourning in their unique way. Some with silent vigils, others with brightly colored luminaria drifting through starlit skies. But for the first time, a new sense of optimism blossomed on every Allied planet. Reconstruction teams formed cross-species crews, each team forging deeper bonds than the last. Garlocks and humans traded jokes in Martian desert bases, where greenhouse projects took shape to renew oxygen supplies. Terran luminaries led joint research sessions with Orathaean quantum professors in Earth's orbit, ensuring that the new warp technology could be refined for peaceful exploration. The synergy extended beyond warfare, transforming into a genuine camaraderie. Months later, in the aftermath of the Grand Victory, the Galactic Council met again in that same imposing dome. This time, the mood was brighter, if still solemn. No one had forgotten the fear, the immeasurable loss. Yet they also remembered standing shoulder to shoulder with strangers turned comrades. The delegates shared tributes, swapping mementos from the battleground over Helion's belt. A trove of Garlock biotech seeds was gifted to Earth's reforestation initiative, while Orathaean star charts were given to Terran navigators. In every exchange, the implicit promise was clear. Never again would they face a threat of such magnitude alone. Stories of that day spread quickly, not merely as a war record, but as an exemplar of unity. On Earth, children played Allied fleet in the streets, brandishing toy starships and plush Garlock beasts. Among the Tsirian hives, workers recited the poem songs that commemorated the synergy of single-minded insects and free-moving mammals. The Garlocks, robust and proud, taught new generations how it was humanity's unbreakable spirit that had awakened the Alliance's survival instinct. Even in Orathaean symposia, once known for staid, dispassionate scholarship, students passionately studied the combined strategies that led to the Broodmother's downfall. The once fractured galaxy found itself on the verge of an era unlike any other. Trade flourished, guided by mutual trust and enhanced by the shared leaps in technology from the war's forging flame. Diplomatic ties strengthened. Species that mistrusted each other for centuries now uncovered shared value. Expeditions set course for the corners of the universe that had been deemed too dangerous or too remote. No frontier felt too daunting given the tapestry of allies. Humanity, too, gained an expanded sense of its role in the cosmos. They became symbols of what could happen when boldness met cooperation. As for the Thrazari, scattered remnants still lurked in distant star systems. But never again could they muster the unstoppable wave that once threatened galactic extinction. The trolls kept vigilant watch, and a new set of treaties outlined every species' obligation to protect frontiers. The Allies had learned the necessity of constant readiness, balancing peaceful growth with the seriousness that came from hard-won experience. Time would test whether the memory of unity could endure beyond the immediate sense of relief. Yet, in each new council session, the Allies strove to preserve that unity as a living reality, physically manifested in open trade corridors, cultural exchange programs, universal medical research, and deep space exploration missions formed by crews from dozens of worlds. A single crisis had united them in frantic survival, true, but it was the daily commitment to each other's well-being that would sustain the momentum of peace and progress. From the vantage point of a faraway star, one might see how the galaxy itself seemed to breathe more easily. Where once fear had lurked in shadowy corners, shining outposts of Allied cooperation now dotted the night. The synergy sparked by the crisis continued to grow, forging something greater than the sum of its parts, an interwoven destiny. Throughout it all, The mortals who had stepped up in that final battle held a collective pride, not a boastful pride, but the quiet knowledge that on one critical day they had set aside old divisions and proven that unity could triumph over destruction. There, at Helion's belt, they had faced down a nightmare that not even the most ancient race had believed could be defeated by mere unity alone. They had proven that no barrier was insurmountable when species stood as one, and so it was that every race, young and old, small and mighty, came to revere that singular moment in galactic history. It was a day of synergy, of hope, and of forging alliances that transcended star systems. In legends passed down through time, the Allies recounted the moment. A so-called lesser species revealed the greatest strength of all, unwavering resolve to protect life in every form. Their message mirrored across countless worlds. Tomorrow would bring challenges, but if they met them as one, no darkness could forever dim the collective light of the galaxy. In the flush of renewed determination and an interstellar sense of fellowship, species that once only nodded at each other in council halls now embraced as partners. Plans formed for an even deeper union. Cultural festivals, universal learning banks, and mutual defense protocols that extended beyond a single threat. With official declarations and heartfelt commitments, the Allies built forward, weaving the tapestry begun during humankind's call to arms. For the first time in recorded memory, the galaxy dared to believe in a future nurtured by cooperation rather than shaped by fear. It was a quiet ceremony, attended by leaders from each world that took part. They honored the fallen and pledged that the path forged in battle would become the foundation for an era of understanding. Ambassador Reyes stood side by side with Garlock envoys, Tyran luminaries, and Orithian savants, reciting the vow they had inscribed in the annals of the galaxy, never again to repeat the mistakes of distance and distrust. When the final words resonated across the starlit dais, an uplifting sense of catharsis washed over them all. The day ended with the lighting of a swirling network of beacons, each symbolizing a star system that embraced the Alliance. Across parsecs of space, watchers could witness these grand coordinates flicker to life in unison, a cosmic chain of promise illuminating the night. From newborn hatchlings on Tyran worlds to the venerable elders of the Orithian enclaves, people gazed skyward, marveling at the tapestry they had woven. And though many tragedies darkened that memory, the vision of a brave and hopeful tomorrow eclipsed all. There would be no venturing back into an age of isolation. The rifts of paranoia and suspicion between species saw repair at an astonishing pace. Explorers of any race found safe harbor in once forbidding ports, and scientists collaborated on universal cures for once incurable diseases. Every dimension of life took on a spark of the extraordinary, fueled by fresh opportunities that came with interdependence. Across each world's horizon, the sunrise felt brighter, the sense of possibility more profound. With each year that passed, the heroic efforts at Helion's belt radiated outward, shaping education, interstellar policy, and the collective imagination. The Great Alliance, galvanized under the greatest threat, steadily built an age of renaissance. Youth from every species studied together, learned from one another, and carried forward the solemn gratitude that their galaxy still existed. Out of destruction had come determination, harnessed by alliances conceived in urgency, but growing stronger in calm. Some centuries later, historians tried to capture the essence of that pivotal event on Helion's belt. They found themselves struggling to express the magnitude of unity forged beneath swirling starlight and looming doomsday dread. Yet in every language, among every culture that participated, one truth remained deeply woven into each narrative: that bitter adversity had prompted the most extraordinary solidarity. It had taught them to cherish life across boundaries of shape, creed, or star system, proving once and for all that what truly defined civilization was not how it fought alone, but how it rose together against the gravest of threats. And though the circle of cosmic existence would continue to turn and present new ordeals in the endless story of life, The galaxy would forever remember the day it first stood as one. That day transcended names and titles, speaking more eloquently than any official record. Even if centuries blurred the details, the essential truth shone bright in collective hearts. They recalled a time when the impossible had come to pass. Humanity, once overlooked, stood at the forefront, guiding allies through cunning, sacrifice, and an unwavering belief in a future worth defending. Whatever else the ages forgot, they would remember the moment the tide turned, and they would cherish the knowledge that no matter how far into the unknown the galaxy dared to roam, unity, resilience, and compassion would forever stand as its greatest beacons of hope.